What's up, everyone? Fritz here again with another episode, and today I'm just going to be going over my just general kind of thought process going into Yeezy Supply drops. We have a big Yeezy drop coming up this Monday on the 16th for the slides. So I've just had a lot of questions just about how I kind of go about setting up, the thought process going into it, how I go about divvying up my resources, the resources I use to plan it out and everything. So I'm going to go over all that today, and hopefully this is helpful. I'm trying to get this out a couple days before the drop. So, check this out tonight, and hopefully this is helpful for Monday. So first, obviously, when I'm going into a drop, I'm obviously looking at the shoe. I don't go for every drop equally as hard. That should be relatively obvious because obviously they're not as profitable. So one of the big things obviously is going to be I'm going to look at the kind of schedule of the schedule for the month. Typically, you kind of know going into a drop whether something is really worth throwing, the kitchen sink at. The slides are definitely in that class. Typically any, classic Yeezy is going to be in that. Sometimes new Yeezys don't do as well, but basically, is this a really hyped shoe? The slides obviously are a hyped shoe. I'm going to be getting extra instances for that drop of bots that I can. I'll go over that. If you kind of see here, right, I've got, Valor 1, Valor 2, Trickle 1, Trickle 2, what bot 1, right? So I've got my Yeezy Supply just kind of set up based on that. Now, obviously, Yeezy Supply is the main target of these Yeezy drops, right? I do have, if you kind of look below and I'll go over it, I got my 7 a.m., I got my 10 a.m., but Yeezy Supply is the big one because that's going to be the one where you're really doing the most planning for because there's the biggest chance of hitting a lot of pairs. So, with that being said, I've then got to kind of look at Gmails, all right? If I'm going to be running heavy, which I am on this, where I've got, 4 Valors, multiple Trickles, multiple Whatbots, I need to then kind of do the math in my head on how many Gmails I'm going to need. A good rule of thumb for me, at least for Valors, is I've got 2 or 3 loaded up on each one, and I use Inbot. Trickle, I try to have, at least 5 per every 1 to 2K. They say kind of ignore that in their Discord. So, you've got to go off what they're saying. And then Whatbot is a little more intensive. But if you notice, and this is wrong here, but this should be AYCD because I run these on AYCD, but you can have that there. And as you just notice, I have these different setups, and this just helps me visualize my setup better. So again, you can say for this, I'd say Inbot, and then I'd have my 1 there. And then for here, I usually have AYCD, and I just leave that blank because I'm basically on these drops going to throw all my Gmails at it, right? I'm going to have as many in there as I can to just lower the burden on the individual Gmails, but you've got to kind of do some of that math based off of what you're thinking, right? So if you are limited by your Gmails, you've got to divvy them up based off what you feel your best resources are, right? It's a tough call. I am at the point where I'm just running more and more of these bots because these 3 have been by far the best Yeezy Supply bots lately. Now that can obviously change over time. It hasn't always been like this, but just in my mind, for me, it's silly for me to run at this point, Wrath, Mech, Prism, Noble with Valor, Whatbot, and Trickle, just because in my case, why would I should run another Trickle or another Valor before I start running Prism, right? I do have access to other bots, but that's, again, something that you've got to plan out, right? If you have access, if your best bots are Wrath, Prism, and, Noble, you run all those bots, right? Those are your best options. There's nothing wrong with those bots. I'm just giving you how I think about this because for a while, when I was learning how to kind of plan and best deploy my resources, I kind of was, I'm going to run all these bots because, they all work. I want to cover all my bases. But in reality, that's not really the case, right? You do want to diversify, but you want to put your best options out there. So just remember, you've got to kind of think about what those bots require Gmail-wise and how many tasks they can run. That's another big one when you're planning out because if you are maxing out bots don't all run the same amount of tasks, right? Valor can handle about 1.2K. Trickle can handle 5 to 10K, depending on what you're running it on. Whatbot's 2.5, right? Wrath is 1K. Mac is around 1K. So you've got to know that too, and you've got to have that in mind. So I've got my little tickers down here that when I start putting in like task counts, they add up. So I know how much or what the task count is for each bot. So again, you've got to plan out your Gmails. You need to make sure you have enough to not overload your bots. I cannot stress out enough that if you're in a tight spot via Gmails, don't overload them. You're going to be better off running a conservative, safe amount of tasks that you know your Gmails can handle, because they're just going to work better. They just are. If you are overloading your Gmails in AYCD or they're not working in Inbot, it's not, more is not better. So you need to do a objective and not emotional assessment of, if I've got 10 Gmails, I need to play it safe. I'm going to do better off running a conservative amount of tasks with that and having those Gmails do well than maxing them out and kind of overloading my setup. So you've got to be realistic about what you have access to and what you can run. I'm not going to lie. I don't have enough Gmails yet where I could run 10 copies of Whatbot. I don't. I'm working to just continue to up those because I do want to run more of these instances. Again, I've said many times on this channel, like, my goal is to be hitting hundreds of pairs one day. So if that's my goal, I don't know why this says up here. If that's my goal, I need to continue to have that be my goal. Think about it, and my mind will create solutions, right? But like, I need to up the Gmails, right? I'm at about 100, 120 right now. And, I'm playing that safe with this. So I'm trying to just run this, see how that goes with that setup, and I'll go from there. Now, when you're considering proxies for Yeezy Supply, right? You really gotta be up on kind of what has been working lately. More or less, over the course of a year, the best proxies for Yeezy Supply are going to be daily ISPs. They just are. That is not to say that every single drop it works like that, but that is just on a risk-adjusted basis. That's going to be what works best. Now, with that, right, you got to kind of pick what you can do. A lot of people are going to be in the position where they're going to get what they can afford ISP-wise. They're going to put that out there, and then they're going to fill the rest in with live and residentials. That's what I had to do for a very long time. I had somebody one day be like, oh, this isn't a lot, but I bought 100 ISPs. That is a lot to some people. 100 ISPs is a lot of money to put out on a drop for some people. That's okay. Some people, some people are buying 10,000 ISPs a drop. So you've got to, again, do an assessment of where you are. And just remember that ISPs are going to work better. Residentials do work, but you do get what you paid for. Now, like I said, it's usually going to go ISPs, live, residentials. Recently, this is being made in mid-May 2022. Residentials have been doing very well recently. I think that will come to a close soon. I think that there's been a good amount of time. I think ISP providers may have switched up their subnets, but we will see. But I think that it's a good rule of thumb to try to get daily ISPs. Now, when it comes to daily ISPs, the thing that you need to really keep in mind is that when you're starting off and you, like I just said, you're buying 100 ISPs, that's all you can really afford to put out risk-wise, right? You're not like hitting massive amounts of pairs, so you're still building up. That is tough, because when you're buying daily ISPs or ISPs by 50 or 100, you've got to take the time and just be patient until you get good enough and get reliable enough that you're hitting on a regular basis. The big leap can come when you are in a position where you are able to buy daily ISPs in bulk. You can get the price down to a lot cheaper than what most people are selling at, like 75 to $1 a proxy. If you can get that down, that's a big benefit. I didn't reach that point until a year and a half, 2 years into botting, when I felt confident enough that, I've hit on several drops in a row with dailies. I have this down. My Gmails have been working. I have my bot set up right. I'm going to go out on a limb and buy 1,000 for the first time. I understand that is scary, but at some point, if you're going to continue to grow, those sort of decisions have to happen. I've done plenty of takes on the difference between reckless and taking calculated risks. That's on, I try to give you the most information to filter your decision through and have a framework to think about it. But you've got to build up the confidence and just record over time that you are confident that going into a drop, you've had success on the site, and that you're just scaling up what you already did. Don't try to scale something up without doing it on a smaller scale first. Something else that you could look at other than dailies is you can wait for months when like we had in March, where there were a lot of drops. You could get a subnet for that month and run it on all the drops. That is also an option. But that, again, is the planning of this, looking at a month, right? At the start of March, if you looked at the schedule, you knew what was coming up. And there's usually big months in the year, right? There should be one coming up in around June. I've seen Yeezy Supply, their day or Yeezy Day this year is rumored to be on August 1st. December is a big month, right? There are big months where you can get subnets or you can kind of think about it more long-term like that. But that takes planning as well. So I do have a proxy episode if you want just more in-depth takes on proxies, what work, what you should be getting them for. I did make one of those recently, so you can check that out if you need to. But I mainly go for dailies on Yeezy Supply as far as what I'm running. I do have some monthly subnets. I do have some weeklies I get from sponsors, but mostly it's going to be dailies. The two that I really depend on most are EXO and NORA. I have links and information for them below. Go on their site and grab some if you haven't. They are outstanding. Those are the two go-to daily providers that I have as sponsors and I really promote on here. So those are great. And then Ping, Oculus also have those outstanding. I use those as well. So any of those companies are listed below. Go check them out. They all work extremely well. But the more time you put into this and the more regularly you engage in the planning process, the better idea you kind of have going into drops, right? The next question is going to be, or the next thing I'm going to go over is my sheet here, right? So I really suggest, and I didn't need this for a year or two, because if you're running one bot, I know you don't need to do this, right? Your planning is just on the bot. You can see it. But I would recommend starting off making a sheet like this where I'm do one of these for every drop. So I can go back. They all look the same. They all have the same information on it. They've got the stock numbers. They've got the SKU numbers. They have the proxies I had, ISP-wise, live, residential. They show the difference. Like I said, the SKUs. They have setups here where I go in and it tells me the bot, right, that it's on. Then we go to the server it's on, the bot, right? What we're doing in bot wise, solver wise, how many it has. And then here I've got, and if I am actually filling this out, this is how this would go. So if I was going to use my Oculus, right, I'd go here, Oculus, I can't type, Oculus. Now, if I was going to do a range, right, if I've got 800, I could put 1 through 400. Site, now we're doing Yeezy Supply, so I would put maybe glow here, and then I'm going to go with 400, okay? Maybe if I have live on here, I'm going to go live here. If I want to throw all of them on here, I don't even need to put range. I'm going to put, let's say, we'll go for pures. And then let's say diamond and Oculus. And then again, just like this, I'd go like Onyx. And then I could go down here. And there we go. So that's how this would look, right? I've got, again, all of my information here. I can make this bigger. I want to keep this all on the screen. But if you look here, right, I've got all my server ones here. Okay, so these are all on the same server. If I move over, these are all on the same server here. These are all on the same server here. All right, and then I've got some more over here. So I can't stress enough that if you do this, it's going to help you in more ways than one. It's going to help you plan out more clearly. It's going to help you be able to compare drops to each other. It's going to help you you're going to remember things better because it's something that you have in your mind, right? And I can't stress enough that when setting up, this really helps because once I check this over the first time and know that it's right, it helps me when I'm setting up 4 different valors. It helps me not mix up what I'm doing, right? Because it's very clear where everything is and what I'm running on it. The ranges, the SKUs are here. When I get the stock, I put stock in there. And then again, I have here. So again, if I go down to here, I've got my 7 a.m. drops. And this is where I'm going to have FNL, foots, right? DSG, foot sites. So this is where I would have that. And then below that, I come down and I got 10 a.m. drops, right? So Shopify, Nordstrom's. But basically, this is what I fill out every single drop. It is very helpful. I did this in writing for a while, which is ridiculous, but I didn't start really doing this until I got, up to running more bots. But I would do this. It helps you just think about things in a more organized manner. So just consider that. Obviously, the bigger the drop, the more important this is. If I'm just running Yeezy Supply or just running, just a light setup with just a couple valors and a Whatbot and a trickle, it's not as critical. I still do it because, habits reign supreme. But it's just, I can't stress enough. The more you plan, the better off you're going to be. I will put a link to this in the description below if any of you want to use this. It doesn't really matter what it looks like as long as it's something that makes sense to you and that you are able to duplicate on a regular basis and just has all of the information in one place. I can't stress enough how helpful this is when I actually am going through, setting up, putting in the SKU numbers, editing the task numbers and all of that, making sure that I have the right ranges of proxies in and that I'm not duplicating those and ruining those. It's just very helpful. So check that link out if you need. I think I've pretty much covered everything on here. The big thing the big thing for this, at least based off of which SKUs I'm running the most for. All right. Typically, I try to run pretty even amounts. I go into drops since typically I obviously want to base my opinions off stock numbers, right? Especially for other drops like the Footsite drops and the FNL. I need, if Footsite has if Foot Locker has, 80% of the stock, I'm gonna run a lot of FTL and maybe only one Champs, right? It depends. With Yeezy Supply, I really do try to run more or less even across the board, unless I get stock numbers last minute that just show that one of the SKUs is responsible for half. Then I'm going to go in and I'm going to throw in more of those because I do want to adjust for that because it does make sense to do that. But I would recommend just doing an even spread. But you got to, if you really only want one SKU, run for one SKU. If that's dependent on what you want, customers want, whatever the case may be. But just factor that in. I do try to put the stock numbers because it does help me, again, just do a better job of remembering what happened when I'm looking at things. It helps me remember what the stock was, and it helps me just have a better idea of what I can expect based on stock numbers. It's kind of like somebody going in the stock market for the first time. If you tell them that Tesla's at 200 and they have no idea what the price has been, is that good or is that bad? Who knows? Because you don't know. When you know what stock numbers have been on drops, you have a better idea of what to anticipate. You have a better idea of what to anticipate drop-wise. So it is helpful. So just keep records of what you're doing. It's a smart thing to do just in general. As always, massive shout out to my sponsors, all of them. They all, really help me do a good job, and they're all very reputable companies. Like I said, NORA and EXO are outstanding daily companies that provide those. I have those links in the description below. And then again, Ping, Live, Diamond, Oculus, all of them are outstanding companies. Nocturnal, they all have, some of them are doing their sales tonight, some are doing them this weekend. But like I said, all of the information for those are in the section below. So check that out. And if you need any Gmails too, Vanished is outstanding. They're pretty much the only company I use, and they will be restocking at 6 p.m. tonight. I hope that this is up in time for that to, for y'all to get over there. But all of that information is below. So just check out those links. Click on those. Some of the Discord channel links are in there, so you can check that out and hop in there. But that really is it. I'm setting up this weekend. Really big day Monday. Really hoping for 40, 50, 100 pairs. So we will see. Whenever I start thinking that, it doesn't happen. But I'm going to give it my best shot. Hopefully we're looking, I think what's the best I've hit so far, 63. So 62, 63 a couple weeks ago, a month or so ago. So hoping to top that. Let me know if you got any questions, anything, any input you want on your setup. I'm more than happy to help, and I will try to get back to you as quickly as possible. As always, follow me on Twitter, Instagram if you want to hear from me daily. But just get your setups right, get all your resources straight, and hopefully we all have a massive day Monday. Have a great weekend, and I will try to get that live cop up Monday night, and that'll be the next time you hear from me. So have a great weekend again. Get rested, get your mind right, and hopefully we cook on Monday. So until next time, see ya.